In this video, I'll be showing you how to screen print with a paper stencil. I'll be showing you how to print in the positive and in the negative spaces. So once you have got your design, you start by making the stencil. So for this video, I am using a simple 5-pointed star. And what I am doing is I've got a green mat underneath my paper. You can see it over in the corner. And I'm using a craft knife. So as I'm going around, I'm pushing down on the craft knife quite firmly with my index finger, with the knife resting in the little well between my thumb and finger. The knife itself is quite flat on the table. It's probably like a 40-degree angle. If you lift your knife up too tall, like you would to write with a pen, if you lift your knife like that, you'll actually just tear the paper rather than slicing it. So as you go around, you need to make sure that you're moving the paper around so it's comfortable for you to cut those edges. Don't be trying to do this with your hand on a weird angle because you'll lose control of what you are doing. And always be very mindful of the people around you when you're using a craft knife, and also your own body, your fingers, making sure you're keeping them away from the direction of the blade. So we've nearly finished the 5-point star here, and I'm going to remove that. Now the paper with the star removed out of it is the piece that we'll be using for the positive space, and the star itself is the piece we'll be using for the negative space. So we're going to start by printing in the positive space. To print in the positive space, we need to first set up our screen. So what I'm doing is I'm putting the screen upside down, so the screen fabric itself is up off the table, and I'm putting the star on the reverse side of the screen. I'm putting the star right in the center of the screen. It doesn't mean I need to print the star in the center of my fabric because I can move the star around, but it's much easier to do your screen print with the star or your image in the center. You have more control and you don't need to worry about the frame of the image. So as you can see, I am using masking tape to tape up around my piece of paper. When you do this, you need to make sure that the paper is flat on the screen. If it has any lifts up in it, any bumps in it, the ink that we use for screen printing is going to get stuck underneath those bumps, and it is going to ruin your print. You also need to make sure that you're taping up the entire screen. We do not want any bits of screen to be open for the ink to come through, because the ink is quite slippery and it will find its way through the smallest little gap. So now that is my screen all set up and I am ready to print my fabric. So the fabric that I'm going to print is a bag that's already made up. And what I need to do is put a piece of timber inside the bag, which I've already done. That lifts the seams away from where I'm going to be screen printing, otherwise the seams can get in the way. And I've put a piece of paper inside. Because the screen printing ink is water-based, it will go through your fabric, and if you don't put paper inside, you might end up with the ink going right through onto the timber or the other side of your fabric. I've decided to print my star at the center of my bag, so I'm moving that in place. Now I have my ink. I'm using purple ink for this, and my spatula. This is a regular kitchen spatula, and my squeegee over there is still on the table. So I bring the ink pot over to the screen, and you can see that I'm putting a generous amount of ink on the screen, and I need to do this so it reaches both sides of the print I'm trying to do. So you can see that the ink goes just past the star on both sides. So now I'm getting my squeegee, and what you need to do, you normally do this with both hands, but I'm actually printing on my own today. You grab your squeegee with both hands and you want to put it on a 45-degree angle, so the sharp edge of the squeegee, it's not sharp that it will hurt you, but it is a sharp edge, is pushing the ink through the screen. You don't want the dull edge or the broad edge to be pushing that through. So pushing with all your might, because you do need to work hard to get that ink to go through the screen. And now when I remove the screen, You can see that the star has now been printed, and I'm ready to clean up for the next one. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to print in the negative space, which is around the star but not the star itself. So again, I need a clean, dry screen, and I'm going to place my star that I removed from the first print in the center of my screen. I'm going to stick this on using a tape loop. So I'm just getting a little piece of masking tape, looping it around, and sticking that on the screen. You do not need a lot of tape to do that loop. Then the next step is to frame up the rest of the screen with tape. Now, just like last time, we needed to put tape and paper everywhere that we didn't want ink to go. We need to do the same here. So for this print, I've decided just to tape up a square shape around my star. So you'll see that I'm just putting layers and layers of tape in place to block the screen as I tape it up. Let's watch this in fast forward motion. It's up to you how big you would like your negative space to be. I'm keeping my square fairly small for this demonstration. So there we have my frame ready to go. And now I am ready to get my fabric ready. So I'm putting a piece of paper down first to protect the table, and I put my piece of fabric on top. So this time it is not a ready-made bag, it's a bag that is getting ready to be overlocked and sewn. And I am placing the screen in the center of my piece of fabric again. And now I am ready for my ink. I'm using the same color as last time. I'm using the same squeegee and spatula. So I open my ink pot and I place the ink all the way across the negative space. Just like before, when we went across from one side of the star to the other, you need to go slightly past the negative space that you are printing and clean your spatula off before you put it down. Again, you should be using two hands for this, and you'll be pushing that through on a 45-degree angle. You remove the excess of the ink back into the pot, and we'll do at least one more pass, pushing as hard as you can go to remove any excess ink and to make sure that the ink has gone all the way through the screen and onto your fabric. Next up, we will lift off the screen, and you will see that the fabric has now been printed in the negative space. So that is the space around the star, but not the star itself. And now you can enjoy your results. Thanks for watching.